So by now, you probably got a good idea of what the little voice is and how it shows up. And probably one of the most common little voice statements, that incessant chatter that bugs you in the brain, is one that I call not blank enough. Now you can fill in the blank. It'll be not smart enough, not fast enough, not old enough, not young enough, not pretty enough, not good looking enough, not talented enough, whatever it is that when you come up against that moment where you have the opportunity to get bigger, is that the little voice says, you're not smart enough, you're not good enough. And again, the real issue here is to understand one thing. The little voice is not really you. That's right, it's not you. It's a composite of your teachers, your parents, preachers, the media, friends, politicians, whatever the case might be, that all sit back there in your subconscious that at the moment that you show up to do something, erodes your confidence, creates fear, non-deservedness, creates procrastination, lack of authenticity, give up on your dreams. So we don't want to do that anymore, okay? As a matter of fact, I got a couple pictures of my little voice. You want to see my little voice? Okay, good. I'm going to show you my little voice. So, you know this little voice? This is you know this one? Right. This is the one that sits there just when you're ready to take on something, just when you think you've got victory in sight, whack, and find some way to sabotage it. I'm sure that's happened to you at least once, right? Familiar with that little voice? Good. Or how about this one? You know this little voice? This is road rage little voice. This is that moment where if somebody gives you one more problem, you're going to reach out, grab their throat, and squeeze it until their eyeballs pop out. And again, high emotion, low intelligence, not a good place to be, okay? Or maybe you're familiar with this little voice, right? This one actually is my mother without the hair. It's like, I told you you shouldn't do that. I told you you're not smart enough. I told you you're too greedy. La, 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 la. Right? That beating yourself up. Have you ever beaten yourself up at least once today? Of course you have, but you got to be very careful of that because that takes your energy down. And like I said in the very beginning, learning requires what? Energy. The other thing you're going to learn in sales is that two people come together in a selling situation, person with highest energy generally wins. You know what I'm talking about? Do you have children? If their energy is higher than yours, who wins? And if you don't have that experience, I'll loan you my kids and they'll wear you out. But the bottom line is you've got to keep your energy up, so you've got to be careful of these little voices. How about this little voice? It's like, oh, the government will take care of me. Somebody save me. I'm afraid. I can't. Never being, wanting to make more money, wanting to make a sales call, wanting to go to the gym, wanting to form a new relationship with somebody, but being afraid. Well, what if I fail? What if I can't do it? What if it doesn't work? All that stuff. You've got to learn to master your little voice. Or maybe that you have one of these little voices. I have this one. This is the stubborn little voice. It's like, well, if everybody just listened to me, the world would be fine. It's everybody else that's messed up. It's not me, and this is like what I call my 35 to 45 to 55-year-old little voice that just doesn't want to change. Just stubborn and thinks that the whole rest of the world is the problem. Back in 1982, when I went to that first personal development program, I realized that the problem, one thing in common with all the things that had worked and not, was me. Or maybe your little voices look like this. Should I or shouldn't I? Can I or can't I? Now remember the workbook you downloaded at the beginning of this program? Good. I want you to turn to the common little voice issues portion of it right now, because I want you to do something. When it comes to the results that you want, what are the limiting little voices? I showed you some of mine. What are the limiting little voices that pop up when you try? I want you right now to sit down and make a list. What are the little voices that pop up when you try to go lose weight, when you try to make another sales call, when you're trying to improve a relationship, when your emotion is high and your intelligence is low? Make a list of what that little voice is actually saying, and next to each one, where did that little voice come from? When was the first time that you started doing that? Or was it your parents that did the same thing and you're just copying them? It'll be very enlightening for you to go through this process, and trust me on this. By simply doing this process, you are already automatically beginning to reprogram the little voices in your brain so that now you're in control rather than the little voices being in control.